Well, hey there, fellow sojourners, and welcome back to another edition of Appropriating the Culture. On today's episode, we discuss the marketing gimmick of based on a true story and Christian enthusiasm for the true life genre. I'm Pastor Shane. I'll be advocating for fiction books today as we appropriate some culture. So one of the biggest marketing ploys in the movie industry is the slap-on text that says, based on a true story. This is a gimmick you've probably noticed that is hugely utilized by the horror genre, The Conjuring, The Possession, The Rite, The Haunting in Connecticut, and on it goes. But if you know anything about the actual source material for those films, you'll come to find that the word based is doing a lot of heavy lifting, especially legally. You can have a film that is based on true events, and those events depicted can be not what happened, not how it happened, or when it happened, or who it happened to. Even worse is the moniker inspired by true events, like The Strangers is inspired by the true event that sometimes people murder people they don't know. Everything else is made up. Or Hustlers, which is inspired by the true event that strippers are not the most moral people. Or One Night in Miami, which is inspired by the true event that Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke were at one time all in proximity of each other. The rest is made up. And given those films, the word inspired might be doing the heavy lifting. Were you now inspired? But the true event tags can get even more crazy thanks to the Coen brothers, who started off Fargo with this title card. This is a true story. The events depicted in the film took place in Minnesota in 1987. At the request of the survivors, the names have been changed. Out of respect for the dead, the rest has been told exactly as it occurred, which was complete and total nonsense because the Coen brothers made it all up, which they eventually copped to. But why? Why the charade? Well, as they explained, if an audience believes that something's based on a real event, it gives you permission to do things they might otherwise not accept. So they used it as a tool to aid in the suspension of disbelief. But most of the time, the moniker of based on a true story or inspired by true events is nothing but a marketing ploy. Now the question is, why does that marketing work? Why do we gravitate to movies that are based on a true story? Why on earth would that be a selling point for us? I mean, just because it's a true story doesn't mean it's a good story, and we can think, no doubt, of so many of our favorite films that are just totally made up. So who cares if it's true or not? Well, with horror films, you can see some of the appeal in marketing. It gives some grounding, which enhances the scary vibes. I mean, if you're sitting around a campfire telling a ghost story, the ghost in that story shouldn't be known to haunt some woods somewhere but these woods, right? That's scarier. And placing the horror story in the real world is the same trick of putting the terror in closer proximity to you. The most successful example of this is the Blair Witch Project, which I think on its merits is a terrible and boring movie, but was amazingly marketed as genuine found footage and became a phenomenon because of the purported realism. But horror films are certainly not the only genre that touts being based on a true story. Christian films also love dramatizations of true stories. Things like Soul Surfer, Breakthrough, Woodlawn, I'm Not Ashamed, Faith Like Potatoes, Sound of Freedom, Sound of Hope, I Can Only Imagine, and on it goes. We love true stories, and people will all the time try to sell you on a film because it's based on a true story. I can't tell you how many people have told me, oh, it's based on a true story. It's a true story. You know it's a true story. You gotta see it. It's based on a true story. Now, for me, that doesn't really move the needle. I don't go to the theater for a Wikipedia page. There are good films based on true events. There are bad films based on true events. But I think the reason that it's a selling point is because it creates the idea that this real-life event was so incredible, was so unbelievable, that it had to be dramatized. And for Christians, stories based on true events are taken as a sort of testimony to what God has done and is doing in the world. And of course we love that. And there's certainly nothing wrong with liking or gravitating towards art that is based on real events. But I would caution us and even challenge us to elevate our thinking in regards to this, because I don't want Christians to become like Ed Helms and They Came Together.
I love fiction books. Do you?
No, I don't. They're not real. I like things that are real.
Oh. Well, I like fiction books because I think it takes you to a different world, you know, and
Sure.
people create a story, characters that you fall in love with.
Yeah, but they're not real. I mean, you know that, right? I remember in high school they made us read The Great Gatsby. I asked my teacher, did this happen? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, then why'd they write it down?
That's funny. But there's a real tinge of that, and maybe especially in Christian circles, and it's a really shallow kind of thinking that fundamentally misunderstands the nature of art and drama. Just because it's based on true events doesn't mean it's true. The film Milk is based on true events, but everything it espouses is a lie from the pit of hell. It's very possible to get facts right and truth wrong. And the same is true even for Christian films based on true events. What's more, taking Christian films based on true events as a sort of testimony can be deeply problematic as well, because every film to some degree exercises creative liberty. It can be more or less, but every film takes creative liberties. And the reason is, real life is not a movie. Real life does not fit within the narrative structure. Timelines will be compressed or flipped or streamlined, moments exaggerated or heightened, real people will be written out entirely, or multiple people synthesized to one fictional character. Motives will be simplified, words and moments and scenes totally made up. That's what happens, because real life is not a movie. Real life does not fit within a good narrative structure. Real life is meandering and plotting and messy and convoluted and doesn't lend itself naturally to things like theme. And so a filmmaker is often going to have a choice. Tell it as it happened, which would make for a bad film, or tell a good story. Just because it's based on true events doesn't mean it's true. And likewise, just because it's fictional doesn't mean it's not true. I think we need to elevate our thinking in regards to this. The Prodigal Son is a made-up story, but that doesn't mean it's not true. Fiction is a means by which we explore and evaluate reality. Stories teach us things and proclaim things about the nature of reality, about the nature of man, about the nature of God. Fictional accounts can do that well, and true stories can do that poorly. The question for Christians in evaluating art should not be, is it based on a true story, but is it based on truth? If we're thinking that only films based on true stories accomplish that, then we're really limiting and crippling the kinds of stories that Christian production houses can make. And that's kind of a bummer. It's fine to like films based on true stories, and there are some benefits, one of which is that true stories are usually in some sense grounded. And that can be particularly useful when it comes to Christian films, because Christian audiences can be kind of squeamish when it comes to hard realities. So the violence in The Passion of the Christ is fine because, well, that's just reality. It was brutal. But when it comes to fiction, is that violence necessary? Why are you being so graphic? If it's not grounded in reality, Christians are very tempted to sanitize. Or take The Sound of Freedom as another good example. Hard topic, hard to look at, hard to think about. But Christian audiences are more willing to tolerate it because it's a true story. But if you're writing a fictional story, oh, don't write that, come on. If you're just making it up, just have God intervene there. There's a huge temptation to sanitize our stories because of Christian sensibilities. Fictional stories can be truthful or not. Stories based on true events can be truthful or not. So whether it's inspired by true events or completely made up, Christians should tell stories that are based on truth. One such example, if I don't say so myself, is ATC's inaugural film, No Greater. Here's the trailer.
Recently, I had some test work done, and the doctors, they noticed that there is a mass. It's not large, but it is growing, and so what that means is we are having a baby.
I mean, it's messed up, right? You can't be happy for your own daughter.
Your situation isn't normal.
Yeah, I have the mother-in-law from hell.
No, I'm pretty sure that's where they're all from.
What happened? Have you told her yet? Have you told anybody?
I need us to be together on this.
I could lose you both, then what?
I don't want to die, Joel.
You know, I'm proud of you. And what you did and why you did it matters.
whatever happens next, this was the right thing.
Tickets for our screening in Visalia are already on sale now, and screenings in Tulare will be available shortly. You can get those at our website, atcfilms.com, or click the link in the description. If you want to help us in this endeavor, enter your email address in our support section. You'll be added to our mailing list, which will give you detailed information about our fundraising efforts, our mission and vision, and exclusive upcoming details about our next project and how you can help. So be sure to do that. Also, if you like what we're doing here, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and review. Tell a friend. You can also follow me on the major socials, join my author's Facebook page, and I'll see you next time for more Appropriating the Culture.